All right, one of the great days of the year for NBA fans went down on Thursday as the 2023-2024 NBA schedule was released. And now is the time when we get to discuss the most intriguing matchups and get into prediction mode for the upcoming season in the association. So let's do that with the great writer from True Hoop, my guy Jarod. Hector joins me now. Jarod, how you doing? Are you starting to get into NBA mode yet? I feel like I'm ramping up to it. Are you there yet?
I'm ramping. Listen, we still in August, man. It's still summertime. I'm trying to enjoy myself, trying to have some of that beach life. You know how it is, but I'm getting there. We're getting ready.
Oh, we know how it is with you and that beach life. And beach life and like NBA winter indoor sports don't kind of go together, but they can. Nope. But whatever. We're going to talk NBA now. Still the summer. We're going to talk NBA. So, Jarod, let's start with the local teams here in regards to the schedule. First, the Knicks. They open on October 25th. They'll host the Celtics. New York is going to have some expectations after last year's playoff run to the second round. What matchup or matchups intrigue you when you look at the Knickerbocker schedule?
So for the Knicks, what I'm looking for is, you mentioned they had a great run last year, made it to the second round of the playoffs. Are they ready to maintain that or potentially go to another level? So what I'm looking at matchup-wise is, of course, their crosstown or cross-borough rivals in the Brooklyn Nets, who they just broke a streak against this past season, winning the last two after losing 9 straight. How do they play against the Boston Celtics, the best team in the or one of the best teams in the conference, best team in that division? The Philadelphia 76ers, more interesting because we don't know what version of this Sixers team will be there, and potentially will some of those players on the Sixers be on the Knicks, how they play against Toronto Raptors, and then when they do their cross-conference matchups against those teams in the West, how do they stack up against the West contenders? Your Phoenix Suns, Denver Nuggets, Golden State Warriors, Los Angeles Lakers type teams, how do they fare against them?
Will be interesting to see how they fare against the competition. A lot of expectations will be around the Knicks this year. We'll see what they can do. Let's talk about the Nets. They're not going to have the expectations that they've had the last few years now that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are playing elsewhere. Are the return of those two stars to Brooklyn the most intriguing games on the Nets schedule, or does something else catch your eye?
It'll be there. I think in the case of Kevin Durant, he should expect a warm welcome from the Brooklyn crowd. Yes, they fell short of winning a championship, but Nets fans will never forget the run that they went on to the conference semis, being literally a shoe size away from making the conference finals. And Durant played well that season, went hard, and then Kyrie went down. Kyrie has his defenders and his lovers, but there are definitely people and fans in Brooklyn who were like, good riddance. So I think his reaction will be more mixed. But as far as the Nets, what I'm looking at for them is, again, cross-borough, how they play against the Knicks, but how they play against the Hawks, the Indiana Pacers, who I think will be much improved, Toronto Raptors, these teams, because, the Nets, are they going to be a top 6, or are they going to be fighting for play-in spot?
Going to be interesting to see what the Nets are doing as well there, too. Could be a playoff team, could be a play-in team. They're kind of in the middle right there. Now, speaking of returns, we talked about KD and Kyrie returning to Brooklyn. What's a return matchup? One where I want to be clear for people, one where somebody is facing a former team, we're going to see that you can't wait to watch. And why, Jarod? What's one that you got your eye on?
There's so many that are good, right? Of course, Dillon Brooks coming back to Memphis and Chris Paul going back to Phoenix, but this is Chris Paul's 4th team by now, so, less of an issue there. I'm looking forward to see Jordan Poole and the Warriors. Poole now a member of the Washington Wizards when he makes that first return to Golden State, and then when they come in town in D.C. We all know what happened with Jordan and Draymond Green in training camp last year. And this offseason, the Warriors made it clear whose side they were on, right? By signing Draymond to his extension and trading Jordan Poole. And Draymond has been explaining more about what actually happened, telling his side of the story. Jordan Poole's dad's been getting at him a little bit on Twitter, or the site formerly known as Twitter, now called X, whatever. So I'm very curious to see, is Jordan Poole like, no, y'all think y'all made the right choice keeping that dude? Let me show you. I'm very curious to see how that plays out.
Oh, something tells me that Jordan Poole is going to want to show out in that game. We just hope nobody throws any punches in that game. That's something we are not hoping to see. We all know what went down. That will be an intriguing one for sure. Okay, so one of the things that we saw before the full schedule was announced on Thursday was a group play schedule for the NBA Cup, that is the in-season tournament. How do you think teams will approach that competition, especially when it comes to keeping players fresh and rested?
Yeah, I think a lot of the younger teams, will really do their best to sort of put their best foot forward. Because if you're a team who's hoping to kind of compete for that play-in or, really get your competitive chops going, and I'm thinking about San Antonio, Orlando, teams like that, they're really, I think, gonna put their foot forward. As you know, the San Antonio Spurs play the most televised games in the group stage in the NBA Cup. So Wembanyama will be front and center. I'll be very curious to see how he does. So I think the teams are going to definitely put their young players forward and definitely go and push hard. Once the final 4 teams make it to Las Vegas, I do think we're going to see, no matter what, the best players play, because these guys are competitive. They're going to want to win that NBA Cup, because even though the top guys on the team are making a ton of money, $500,000 ain't nothing to sneeze at for someone on a rookie deal, someone on a vet minimum, what have you.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see the best players playing and playing up at a very high, very competitive level in that NBA Cup. And I think fans, as we talked about before, Jarod, are going to start to warm up to this NBA Cup, that in-season tournament. Okay, last thing. Overall, the average amount of back-to-back games for teams is up this year from 13.3 last year to 14, but there is a record low of 9 involving travel for one of those games. Are you concerned that there was a slight increase in the overall average of back-to-back games, or is this nothing to worry about?
I mean, I'm always concerned about that, Dex, as you know. Look, this league plays too many games. I've said that a million times, and the Memphis Grizzlies, for instance, have 14 sets of back-to-backs, right? That's 28 games they're going to play that literally are, in that back-to-back cluster, and that's just tough. It's a lot of wear and tear on the bodies, and a lot of the problem is scheduling and getting arenas, because that's the biggest thing, is that these arenas have other events that go on, ice skating, Chippendale on ice, whatever, all these crazy, the circus, all the rodeo show, all kinds of things fill these arenas. And so they're trying to work with dates and figure out, okay, what are we moving here? What are we moving there? And sometimes you have no choice. It's these, back to back, or it's 3 games in 5 nights. And it's just a lot. And what concerns me always is that the time of year when we want our players to play their best, which is the playoffs, they come in with dead legs and they're exhausted. So, the increase in the back-to-backs really does matter to me. I understand they try to make it best by keeping the travel down, but those West Coast teams still, it's tough for them, right? Golden State, Phoenix, and those teams that are out there, they're always traveling a ton.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how that all works out in the coming years, if those numbers go down in terms of the amount of back-to-backs as the schedule makers look to make schedules for the upcoming seasons. But Jarod, I also got to ask, who's watching Chippendale on ice in 2023?
I mean, who knows? I have no idea. But listen, these owners got to keep these arenas filled with something.
There's always something going on. You're right about that. NBA also always going on, never stops. The schedule is out. If you haven't seen that for your favorite team, go check that. Very interesting. A lot of interesting games starting opening night, which will be October 24th when the association tips off. That is Jarod Hector of True Hoop, always giving you the best insight on the NBA. Good to talk, Jarod. Hopefully we don't have to talk too much more summer basketball until the season starts going.
I'm with you, Dex. Have a good one.
All right.